Revelation 14:13. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, Write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, so that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow them. Now this text is used by the full preterist to assert that there's an ongoing judgment for infinity. But is this speaking of believers in general or the martyrs? And we again get silence from Don K. Preston, after a couple quick exchanges. He disappears. And yet when someone does that to him, like recently Lorraine White and someone else, he says, you failed to answer. He'll keep putting their feet to the fire. So we have a double standard with Don. And also he's given us a proof text method. So we're in full preterism, a thing of the past. A main group that if I do post anything, it's from there. And this post is from Sergius Bale, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Now let me get down to Don and I. Okay, here's where I state, Don K. Preston, as you should know, Revelation 14 is not speaking of believers in general, but those that persevere during the persecution of the beast, the martyrs. Revelation 14:9 and following is the context. And I put up a video that I've done in the past on Revelation 14:13. And full preterist Michael Eckerson even agrees with me. Then Don responds, that does not answer the fact that there was and would be. So he's conceding the fact. He's conceding the fact that, hey, this is the martyrs. He's pretty much conceding that without saying it. This does not answer, he says, the fact that there was to be dying from the time after the day of the Lord. That is the context. The dying is not limited to the time of the beast. Okay. The day of the Lord was the time of the destruction of the beast, and thus once again the dying is after the day. I respond, Don K. Preston, so is the promise of Revelation 14:13 for all believers or just the martyrs in particular? John, writing in the late 60s, is encouraging them that we're being persecuted. I do not see how one can extrapolate this past John's day during the then present persecution under the beast for believers in general for today. Even if one puts this in the future, the same still applies. But again, is the promise of Revelation 14:13 for all believers or just the martyrs in particular? Then I put Don K. Preston, no answer to the above, eh? Don replies, the fact that it posits the continuation of dying after the day of the Lord is the point I was making. So he doesn't want to get into specifics about whether this is general or the martyrs. This removes it from the immediate and delimited context of the then persecution and posits an ongoing blessing from the time onward for those that die in the Lord. Now finally, so you admit that Revelation 14:13 is in fact speaking of, quote, the then present persecution, but go on to assert that we should ignore the context. And now it is just a blanket statement for all believers post AD 70. This is purely presuppositional and wishful thinking, and of course not exegetical. The fact is, as you agree, John was writing in the late 60s. They were being persecuted when John wrote, though thus the promise was for the suffering saints, the martyrs, and not a word from the context that you omit does not matter about this, or does not matter about this for all believers for all time. Revelation 14:9 through 13. And we can see here, there's no replies from Don. So this is our second video on Revelation 14:13, and we can see how Don scurried here as he did with 1 Corinthians 15 and his admissions 2 years ago about asleep, as he will not admit that is physical death anymore.